Hello and welcome to Find It on this Wednesday evening. We are live. We have a very special guest, and he has been on this show a couple of times. He was supposed to be on a couple weeks ago, and I had a family emergency, so we had to bump him to today. But he is here. It is the Barry Selby. He is an author. He is a coach. He is the love doctor, is in the house. He does a lot of things. We're going to talk a little bit about that. A lot of you already know who he is. If you have questions about love, whether it's loving yourself, loving others, or anything that is under the umbrella of love, he is your guy. You might as well ask right now or ask for a friend. You know, I'm asking for a friend. Okay. You can do that too. We know. But anywho, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Studio 11 Style. And this is my company, and it is all about fashion and a lot more than that. It's about also loving yourself on the inside and looking great on the outside. Have a live show every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, and I have an app. It's free. Download it. Studio 11 Style. Don't miss a thing, okay? So here we are, and I am excited to bring Barry on the stage. So hang tight, and we will show his intro, and Barry will be right back with us. Oh, we already have people. Oh, look, Christopher Roush, how you doing? We love you too. Definitely. Definitely. Christopher Roush has been on the show before too. Loving yourself is paramount for achieving long-lasting success. Amen. There you go. We're already getting amens here, brother. All right, Gary. We're ready for this show tonight. Before we get started, though, let's just give everyone who hasn't already seen you on the show a little idea of who you are. So let's just talk about, you are the author of 50 Ways to Love Your Lover. I have read the book. I have the book, and it is incredibly written. I love it, and I appreciate the style in which you had wrote this book. And there's a lot of little nuggets in there that really get you thinking. And he has pages inside that you can take notes. And there's like quizzes, or there's little things that you can do with this. It's almost like a workbook in some ways.
Yeah, it is. I mean, frankly, it's more provocative. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
This is meant to be a response.
It is. Well, with that being said, let's have some dark chocolate and some wine. I do have some. But yeah. So you can find this book online. You can get it at Amazon and probably Barnes and Noble. Anywhere.
Not yet. That will be happening soon. I'm in the process of getting my book through another distributor who can do retail stores, but Amazon for sure, and on my website too, you can get it there as well.
All right, perfect. So it's a great book. It's everything in life, in my opinion, surrounds with. It's all about love. And I feel like I know you and I have talked about different avenues of how love affects our lives, whether that's relationships with other people. But tonight, I think you're going to give us a little bit about what it means to love yourself. So before we do that, though, you're an author, but give us like a quick resume of what all you do.
So besides being an author, I'm also a dual podcaster. I have two podcasts I co-host, one on dating, one on relationships.
Yes.
I've been on this path for many years. I basically have made lots of mistakes, which is why I teach from the things I've made mistakes on. And frankly, most of my work is really been about the journey within, because frankly, it's like, find it is the way you talk about it. But in my own work, that's about relationship with self, because the work we do, finding someone out there, a lot of times we think we're going to find that right partner out there and we'll be happy, but it's not working that way unless you do the work inside first. And it took me a long time to figure that one out, because I kept looking for love in all the wrong places, as the song would go.
Oh, you're going to make me sing again, aren't you?
No.
For love in all the wrong places.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love it. I do have on my shirt today, I wore this because it says, it's your to-do list. And it says, love myself and love others.
Yeah. And
I believe that if you don't really love yourself, it's going to be pretty difficult to love other people.
There's the first seminar I ever took, which is 1984, so 40 years ago, was my first immersion into personal development and growth and everything else. they had 3 ground rules. And one of the ground rules, which I thought I got right from the get-go, which I didn't, I messed that for a long time. It was a ground rule that simply said, take care of yourself first so you can then take care of others. And I heard it is take care of yourself, take care of others. And I didn't think about the then, as in, got to do it first for yourself, because then you can give from your overflow. And that's been a life lesson I've lived by for 40 years. And frankly, most people, if they were like I was, didn't put themselves first in a lot of places. Or if they did it from a place of ego, like I'm better than other people, versus how to actually truly love and honor who I am as a real person. And the thing is, as I said, it's like giving from the overflow is the key, is the way to be in a healthy relationship, because unfortunately most of us have been trained by our parents, because they knew how to do it the same way, to find a partner to be codependent with, where you give me this, I'll give you that, versus I'm whole, you're whole, let's share the journey together.
Ooh, that's beautiful. And, it made me think when you said that, the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Indeed. Yeah.
I like what you're saying. It's important but you're right. The way we were all raised, I watched, children are what they live. My mom took care of everybody all the time, and she never really gave a lot to herself back then. Right. So you are what you live, and you have to learn to fill yourself up so you can give to others.
And the thing is, as I said, our parents are our role models. The way they do things is what we take on as the right way, because it's when we're 2 or 3 years old, we have no guidance of like what to do. We don't have a manual or guidance or anything. So we look at the big people and go, oh, they must know how to do it, because they're the adults. And so we become students at the needs of our parents, so to speak. And so if they have patterns, dysfunctional ways of doing things, I mean, my mother's the same way. She kept giving to the family. She didn't give to herself very much. And I thought that was the way it was. So I did the same thing in my early dating life. And then, frankly, after making lots of mistakes, started learning from different teachers and seminars and books and trainings how to do things different. And when I tried them out, I got better. I still made mistakes, but I improved.
Like those rules actually work.
Indeed. And my book really is a distillation of the lessons I've learned and things that I've studied that I know do work. And it's not all about how to court somebody. I mean, there's a couple of chapters about that, but a lot of it's about the relationship you have with yourself and what may be in the way of that, what it is that we do that sabotages our own relationship.
Give me some examples of what people do that sabotage themselves, or things that they do that or don't do for themselves that prevent them from loving themselves.
Well, I think I shared this in your show before about how one of my favorite quotes to express codependency is from Jerry Maguire saying, "You complete me." We have this fallacy, this false belief that we're incomplete without somebody else. And if you keep running that belief system, or keep running that tape inside that you're not complete without somebody else, you'll never be whole. Well, excuse me, you'll never believe you're whole, because you already are.
Yes.
So it's one of those things. So one of the pieces is can you learn to love yourself enough that you're okay on your own, independent of anybody else? The second one that I'll put on the table, which is a big one I've been working a lot recently with boundaries for people, because boundaries are one of these big issues. People don't have very good boundaries. They're permeable, or they're impermanent, because they want somebody to love them. And one of the ways that we sabotage our own boundaries is we keep making agreements and then breaking them. Meaning that
agreements with yourself.
Well, the secret about agreements with anybody, they all start with us. So there's agreements with ourselves, but what happens is we all say yes to people, and then we'll either break the agreement or we'll overcommit, and we can't do all the things, and we end up screwing things up because we don't learn how to say no, first of all, because a lot of us were raised that you don't say no because it might hurt somebody's feelings. Truth is, when you say no, you're actually saying yes to yourself.
And I guess we have to learn how to say no in a way that's not offensive to, like have your little cheat sheet ready for when I'm maxed out. There's not any way I can do anymore. What is my go-to response when I don't want to do, instead of just being like, nope, can't do it. Like, why? I'm maxed out, and I so appreciate you asking this, but I just not right now.
Well, the thing is, as they say, no is a complete sentence. Is you can just say no, obviously not in a vitriolic or upset way, but you can say, that's not going to work. Or you simply say, I'd love to come and help you, but I'm already booked, or I'd love to do this, but I'm already committed to something else, and let's reschedule for 2 or 3 weeks from now. You can always renegotiate and challenge it with agreement
Sure.
keeping. And I learned this from David Allen, who wrote Getting Things Done. He talks about this in his work as well. He said one of the things he learned this is back in before we had smartphones, when we had day planners. He said the reason why he writes things down, not to remember them, he writes things down to forget them. Because the more you keep your agreements documented, then the more space you have inside to think about other things. So you're not worrying about what did I see yesterday.
That is so true. I like to write things down. That way it alleviates me having to remember. I can always refer back to my writing, and then I can let that go. It's like I write it, now I can let it go. I don't have to keep it up here and keep reminding myself I have to do something. That's good. That's really good.
Well, that's the thing that's so wonderful, is that when we start recognizing that simple actions like writing things down or put them in your calendar, I do the same thing because my phone is my calendar. So I make notes to myself to do things, and then it'll just ding and remind me, oh, I got to do that now. And so it's like having your own personal assistant in a way. I mean, that's what phones used to be. They used to be PDAs, personal digital assistants. That's what the Blackberries were and the paid Palm Pilots. That's what smartphones do now. So if we use them as that resource versus a distraction to go on social media and stuff, which we can get to a little bit later, we use them as a device to support our activities and the way we live our lives, then all our relationships can get up-leveled because we treat them with respect.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And so when we're sitting here talking about alleviating the workload and writing it down, this is a form of self-love.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that level. It is, because you're building trust with yourself, because you, first of all, when you say you'll do something, you keep your word. And that's wonderful.
That's one thing that when I decided to write my book, I said I was going to do it. And then when I said it out loud, and I said it to myself, I'm like, well, now I really need to do this, because I always want to be able to trust myself. Yeah. And so I did. And, it felt really good. Like in this world, when you feel like you might not be able to trust people, you at least can trust yourself, that when you say it, you can back it up and do it.
Well, that's the key, is that by keeping agreements or saying no, so you don't make too many agreements, or you renegotiate when you can't do what you said you're going to do, your trust increases in yourself, and so other people trust you more too, because they value your word as being real.
True.
That's the key. So and talking about boundaries earlier, self-trust is one of the core elements to create healthy boundaries, because we don't trust ourselves, our boundaries become wobbly.
Well, that's one of the things I have written down, because I know that you've really been for years, you've been on a path of self-love. Self-love doesn't happen overnight. I think maybe some people, I know for me, it's a constant journey of, I think it's like exercise. If you miss a couple weeks and you go back to, you get off-roading there a little bit, and then you have to pull yourself back. It's like, the more you do it, the more you get better at it. Yeah. But one of the notes I had written on here was boundaries. Like when someone says respect your boundaries, what does that mean to you?
Well, it depends how you use that, because some people weaponize that. So let's start with the healthy way. Well, some people use boundaries as a wall against other people, so people can't get close. And those actually aren't healthy boundaries. Those are just simply ways to just simply avoid everything. Oh. What healthy boundaries is where you simply know where it's kind of like, simplistically, it's like where your field ends and somebody else's begins, in the most simplistic way of putting it. What boundaries do is give you, in some ways, a personal space. It also gives you the place to have authority and autonomy over who you are, so people don't violate that. If you don't have healthy boundaries, people will violate. It's almost like people tread on your toes, literally and figuratively, if you don't have healthy boundaries. So
this is a question I have too. Okay, no, go ahead. I don't want to break that. That's okay. When boundary it's almost like I can think in my head right now. Oh, my dog just fell. I can think in my head right now. There are people who, and it may have been me before, I feel like I create more of a space for myself where I can say, just like saying no. That's also, in a way, creating a boundary where you're not going to overextend yourself if it's going to break your back. So learning to say no is a kind of a boundary, so to speak. But I can think of people in my head right now that won't say no or won't defend themselves in the moment, not meaning be confrontational, but actually taking a stand for themselves. And I think to myself, wow, that's sort of like you're crossing a boundary and walking on someone. I don't, I wouldn't do that to someone. So first of
Right.
all, but then the
Mhm.
person who is allowing it, at some point, you're going to have to not let that happen. And
This is the thing, yeah, because the other thing is also if you've been in a family or dynamic where you were abused or in a relationship where you were not respected, your boundaries would have probably been trodden on. Again, they become porous, they become ineffective. And so it takes time to build those back up. It's not the good news of the boundaries, they are renewable and you can reset them and you can rebuild them. But it's not, again, like the thing with self love, it's not usually an instant fix, it's practice. So your agreement keeping, for example, is one of the pieces. Is you start making agreements that you do start keeping. You still make mistakes, and you may overcommit, and you may have to renegotiate, but you're conscious now that, oh yeah, I make an agreement, let me keep it or let me change it, rather than just ignore it. And
have
so you
you
start
ever had
building.
to, could you give us an example from your own life where you, uh, your boundary wasn't set and you realized during your journey of self-love that you
Uh,
had to set a boundary and you did it, and how?
just one.
Yeah, just one. I want you to do yeah. Well, that's
Well,
good. That's good
in
to know.
in the relationship space, actually no. Let me use a different one. For example, um, I definitely got overused in some of my volunteer activities where I didn't, because I was so wanted to give and serve because I love what I was doing. I kept saying yes and yes and yes, unaware that I was not taking care of myself. And so I
Mm,
drained that energy and I got upset. And what happened is one of my bad side effects is when I get stressed too far because I don't take care of myself, I start to get upset. And oftentimes it's internal, but sometimes I become short with the people.
okay.
And so I'm getting, and this is going practice over years of getting it better and better. Is I get better at now stopping myself before I say anything I regret, so that I can then get back to taking care of myself. Because the thing is, it's the domino effect. I didn't take care of myself, so I got upset, and so I started saying negative things. It's almost like a sequence.
Mhm.
Catching myself early is one of the keys. And what I had to do was say no to certain things and have a better boundary. Like one thing, I used to run at my spiritual sense. I used to run one of the ministries, but the way I was treated didn't match the role I had by the people who are the actual staff members. I was a volunteer, and I felt that that was not there was a grinding point because I was doing what I thought was giving, and I was disrespected for it. So I
Hmm.
simply said, you know what, the only way that I can make this work is to walk away from it. As much as it hurt the structure, I said, for my own self-care and to keep my boundaries healthy, I'd say, you know what, this isn't working. And I did it very cleanly. That was the thing, because it could have been really messy.
Okay, because but what
Hi, Bob.
when you walked away from that, did you ever have any regret from walking away?
There was a part of me that missed what I was in, the positive side. And in fact, the funny thing is, coming back years later, I'm now doing the part I love without the responsibility that didn't work.
Oh,
So
nice.
I've been on the same spiritual center for 30 years, since '94. So I haven't left there, but I changed roles, and now I find myself in a way that I can do it. That it was within the agreements I have with myself,
Okay.
so I can do it without overdoing it.
And so this was a process for you.
Mhm.
With practicing the boundaries and being able to say no and walking away from things that didn't serve you, that wasn't healthy for you.
Yeah,
During that journey, there were times where you faltered, you would blow up or be snarky or whatever you just did. And then
indeed.
but with practice, you would find you'd realize that you were starting to get heated and you consciously say, "Uh-oh, I need to back away so I don't say something
Right.
I would regret."
Yeah.
That's really good self-control, and that does take practice.
Well, that's the thing is, it's kind of like the idea that when we have a pattern that we want to change, it's kind of like I've told this many times in my work. Awareness is the first step. So we may
Right.
not fix anything, but we're going, oh, I'm doing that again. And so the
Mhm.
quick things, what happens is when you start noticing you're going down that road, you take one step less down the road than you did before. And it could be incremental. It could be step less, more and more. So you get to the point where you don't go down a negative path anymore. So it
What
isn't about you did it like you became aware you did it wrong, and you did it wrong again, and you curse yourself out, make it even worse. Like, no, can you just make improvements step by step by step? And yes, it is a process.
Right, and what about the people, and I don't know if you've ever done this before, but what about the people who continuously beat themselves up, that they're so critical of themselves? it's like, I didn't do this good enough. I don't look good enough. I should have done this. What advice would you give? And I know you have a lot of clients and you see a lot of people, and I'm sure you've come across some people in your work like this. What type of advice would you give someone that's just super duper hard on themselves?
The easy answer, to quote Bob Newhart, stop it.
That's easy. Stop.
If you've ever seen the Bob Newhart psychiatry video, it's like I think it's 5 minutes. I'm like, it's so funny. Anyway, that's the simple solution, but it's not easy, obviously. If you're somebody who is repeatedly berating yourself and limiting yourself and judging yourself, there's more than just changing habits going on. There's some self-talk that's been running probably for years, and maybe you got influence from somebody else, like a parent who said the negative things that you've now taken on for yourself, because the voice inside that is giving you that negative feedback is probably not yours. It's one you took on.
Wow.
So that is a bigger piece of work to do. And with some of my clients who've gone through relationships where that became the norm, I help them trace back to where it started from, and then change the programming, change the languaging, change the recordings in their head. So started affirming who they were rather than shutting themselves down. So it does,
negative self-talk constantly in your head could not only, and then I think that's got to flow over to your personality with other people too.
Oh yeah, it's very hard to keep a positive, pleasant, and easygoing outside when all that turmoil is going on inside. Some people can do, but some actors are good at that stuff, literally, because that's what they do. They put on a persona to hide who they really are.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes total sense. Like, that would be a good field to be in, being an actor or an actress. So you could just always be someone else if you don't love yourself. Mm-hmm. What other keys in your self-discovery and also in your work have you found that help people? What are some steps or some advice of things that you have found really work? I know you said number one is awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Know that you have an issue with negativity or self-loathing or whatever, and when in the top of your head, what kind of advice can you give to someone about that?
Well, something that I started doing this actually way early in the pandemic, like 4.5 years ago, is that I was getting cabin fever, because we couldn't, when we were all locked down, we couldn't go and do anything, that sort of thing. And so I started walking around the neighborhood just to get out of the house once in a while, just to get some fresh air. And then I found one of the parks, which is like a hiking trails, wasn't closed during the pandemic. And so I started making that a habit. And this is what I'm getting to in a second, is that I started going out every single day. And I've done this now for over 4 years. And that used to be in the afternoon, but then it got too hot in the summer. I was starting doing it in the mornings. And I've done it every morning now.
And I would see you taking pictures of nature.
Mm-hmm. Because, and it's not like it's not in the Rockies or something, or up in the green woods somewhere. It's LA, so those hills aren't exactly beautiful, but they're nice. There's a good elevation, and it's good to get the blood pumping. The reason I'm saying that is, it's a habit that I've created for myself that is consistent, that I can trust myself because I keep my word with myself that I'll do it, and it also sets up my day the right way. Some people, the tradition is like they wake up after hitting the snooze alarm 5 times, dragging themselves out of bed, running late for work, grabbing coffee and a donut out the door, and then wondering why the day sucks. because they didn't start the day, first of all, with self-care, and then they didn't do the day where they kept in agreement with themselves. And it could be as simple as, what, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes every morning.
I'm loving this.
Simple. That's not hard to do. It doesn't require special equipment. Just takes 5 minutes. So if you can build yourself a habit that is easy, and then later on you can increase it as you go. A friend of mine, this is something else I did since February. A friend of mine who came into LA started talking, and she had this thing when she's going through her recovery from cancer. And she started going back to the gym, and she started doing, doing plank exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Her goal was to do 2 minutes every day. And so I started to match her. And so every day since February, I've done the same thing, and it's been fun. It's not something, again, it's 2 minutes a day. It's not a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It just requires consistency and willingness. And it's something that I would say anybody who is thinking about how to create new habits is do ones you can accessibly do without requiring other people, and they don't require special tools. If you because going to the gym can sometimes be a challenge if can't get parking or we can't get in, whatever it is, the machine's not in use. But to go for a walk, to do a plank exercise, to sit and meditate, those are little things you can do doing morning pages if you do the artist way. There are lots of different things you can do that are easy, accessible, and consistently that will give you a level of consistency for yourself, so you start trusting who you are. And that can start to quiet the voices that have been running around negatively because they don't believe you until you start demonstrating that you're different.
Oh, that is a great point. And another great point that you made was, a lot of them, was that don't try and give yourself a goal that's way up here when you're here. Be realistic in what you are ready to do, that you will do every day for consistency, like deep breathing. Like when you started talking about that, I immediately took a deep inhaling breath in through my nose, if anyone noticed. Because even if you grab your hot tea, your coffee, your glass of water, whatever you prefer in the morning, and especially when the weather is nice, to get outside, just tell yourself for 5 minutes, I'm going to be alone with myself. I'm going to deep breathe in through my nose, out through my mouth. And this is my time to just let loose of everything and just smell the air and look around. That alone helps me start my day wonderfully when I take the time to do it. And I also like to work out, and I know that you can get those endorphins going, and they help. If it's a brisk walk, that's beautiful. That is an absolute beautiful thing to do to start your day. I love that. So that is great. So we're talking about being aware of love. And I think it's funny too, Barry, because anytime I think the first thing you think of when you think of love, it's like romantic. It's the love that you in a partnership, and it's the being a hopeless romantic, like all the stuff and the newness of dating and all of that. But really, and what you're shining some light on tonight is love yourself first, so you can really be a whole person to love another whole person. And then that's magic.
Yeah, the way I did it visually, because I talk about, Jerry Maguire, you complete me that mindset of, when I find the other person, I'll feel whole. Because most people's idea of relationship is like face to face, nose to nose.
Yeah.
And the problem is, you do that, you can't see where you're going because you can't see past the other person.
Oh, that's a good visual.
So it can be very fun and very sexy and very joyful for the first month, 2 months, 3 months. But after a while, you're going to like, I can't see the scenery. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But if you're two in a relationship, you're sitting side by side, facing the same direction, you're connected, but you're also walking as a team or as a partnership. And that's where growth can happen. Yeah. And that's what I'm clear about, and why I've not chosen to be in a relationship for quite a while, because I haven't found anybody who wants to do that level of self-supportive and additive relationship.
When you're standing side by side, looking out toward your future together, that's when you can grow. If you're looking, and the other thing is, if you're looking at one another for wholeness, that's going to end up in disaster at the end of the day, because one person, like we've talked about this before, you taught me about one person growing and the other one staying in the same place. And that's where a lot of long-term relationships go south, because you want to grow together. So you got to face outward and be a team for your future. That's amazing, Barry. I love that. So we've got awareness. We've got creating, starting your morning to create a good day with self-care, which could be waking up, not hitting the snooze button constantly. Just go ahead and rip that Band-Aid up and get up, get out of bed, and go deep breathe, go take a brisk walk, something that's manageable, that it's not unrealistic and you can continue to do it,
And you benefit from it as well.
Yes, definitely. So those are great tips for sure. So what about when you're helping couples therapy? And I'm fairly certain you can tell pretty quickly if one or both are not whole people and they're fighting amongst themselves with one another because they're looking for each other to complete them.
They're looking for validation. Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, in that relationship, so now I'm bouncing out of it is self-love still, but how do you help them realize? I mean, do you just flat out say, you guys are trying to complete one another instead of you completing yourself, or what? I mean, how do you?
It depends on the relationship I have with the couple. It depends on how
Okay.
blunt I can be with them. I don't, from the first session, do that. But however,
Like, you
I
guys
am.
need a lot of help. We're going to take a lot of sessions to get through this.
Well, the thing is, I mean, the challenge I have with people, even when I'm dating myself, is that I can see patterns quite clearly. It's one of those unfortunate things of having done enough work in all the background in spiritual psychology and all the things I've studied. I unfortunately or fortunately can see the patterns almost, I won't say clairvoyantly, but it's like I can see people's, because the way they talk, the way they act, I can pretty much tell what's going on when they may not be aware of themselves. And say that can be a gift and a curse. So it doesn't make it easier. So I'm working with clients. They will leave clues. They will tell me the things that they're in their way. And oftentimes I can tell pretty quickly, oh, that's because of this belief, or that's because this is running. And so when it's couples, although usually I work with singles more than couples, but with couples, it plays out almost more overtly because there's a dynamic happening. And I just get to witness it and observe it and see, okay, I see what's going on. So
when
the
they
thing is,
start talking to one another and you're an outsider just watching what's going on, I'm sure a lot is displayed there.
Well, the thing is, most people don't talk about with their partners in front of other people usually, except when maybe at the farmer's market and they're yelling at each other about something that doesn't match, But the reality is that the honor I have to witness that is one of those things that I get to really value. And so again, I don't work with many couples at the moment, mostly work with singles. But working with singles does require them to be more overt, more willing to share. But when it's a couple, they tend to be more unabashed. They just jump right in, oftentimes, because they're bringing the stuff with them.
So, that's personal growth. When you are aware, and if someone's coming to you, they care. So they really want, maybe I would say if they're coming to you, they want help in understanding what their issues are or what they're lacking, what they need to do or what they need to stop doing. So that's a good sign, because if they come to you, they're, well, I don't know. Some people may come to you and they don't appreciate what you say, I'm sure, because no one necessarily loves to hear negative things about themselves. But, personal growth is taking that first step to come and see you or someone who can help. But what are let me ask something that's so vague. And if you can answer this, I'm going to be pretty impressed.
Okay.
If someone said, Barry, and I'm the someone saying this, what is your definition of love?
Ooh.
Isn't that crazy? I was asking myself that before we met here, and I'm like, I don't know that I can put it into words.
Well, the thing is with love is it covers a spectrum for a start, because love is not just one thing. But for me, one of the things I would say that love is, or a couple of things I say, love is in the romantic sense especially, but also between two people, is vulnerability, intimacy, connection, truth. That's a good start.
Yeah. And that's good. That's like actual. Okay. Because for me, the reason it's so difficult for me to put words to it is because it's a feeling. And this intense feeling of love, and I'll share this. Right before Barry and I came, it's going to make me emotional again, just thinking about right before Barry and I came on the show, you guys, my son called me and he told me that he got into the master's program that he's been wanting to get into. And it's been a whole thing with Dalton. And this is really going to boost him to the level that he really wants to be in. And I yelled and yay, and then immediately started sobbing, crying. That's love to me. It's selfless. It's that feeling of his happiness. And see, let me ask you this. I agree with it and I disagree with myself in this way. I almost feel like his happiness and his success matters more to me than my own. Now that's when you're saying, but Debbie, you need to love yourself as much as you love that kid of yours.
Well, the thing is, though, that children have a different component in your life than a partner. Like the feeling you have for Dalton may be different than it is from your husband in the sense of how you're so happy for him almost more than you are for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you wouldn't do that with a partner necessarily. Most people, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't recommend it with a partner anyway. But with
Yeah.
children, because they come through you, to quote
Yeah.
Gibran, it's the sense that they are your babies. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
So there is a part of you that's always going to be invested in their success, their happiness, their wholeness.
Yeah.
And so that's why I talk about the codependent piece more about couples than I do with children, because
Okay.
they are dependent upon you for several years of their lives, you know?
Yep. I know. And my mom always told me, you'll always be my baby. It doesn't matter how old you get. And I always used to think that was so strange. Like I'm an adult, and then I started having children. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. I totally understand. But yeah, that's love to me, like that feeling. And I can't really put words with it, but you did. But you're the love doctor. Of course you did. Because I'm all about it. It's, like, what is it? I don't know. I can't express it. So that's good. That's really good. I like that. I want to, if you don't mind sharing a little bit more about, I love that you're so vulnerable with us, Barry, and you've said you've made a lot of mistakes and you're single because of these reasons. Could you share anything additional? Like, could you just pour all out everything? Now, what are some of the mistakes that you made that maybe we can help other people not make?
The reason that I really do the work I do, and what pushed me, prodded me, ejected me into this path, was a relationship I had that ended in 2006, which was the last long-term relationship I was in. So it's
Okay.
been 18 years. But and the funny
Wow,
thing is, I haven't
Barry,
seen
that must have broken your heart.
it did, but also she was blatant enough, but also I'm grateful enough that she told me the truth that she saw, that gave me enough of an impetus and scared me out of my complacency. So I took some action. Because I've been on this personal development field work since 1984. So even though at that point I had quite a lot of things under my belt, really skillful, I still messed up my relationship. And
Wow, I love this because this just goes to show that we can be wise, we can be knowledgeable, we can be, you have a lot of degrees, you have a lot of experience, but in your own life and in here, there were things that you messed up on, let's just be real, like you're saying, and you learned through a failed relationship what a book could not teach you.
no, well, in fact, yes, that's true. And no, there was more to the picture, because the thing was, and the way I describe it is because up to that point, all the work I've done, and I was raised in a family from England, stoic, Jewish reserved family. My dad was very much the closed off, somewhat an emotional leader of the family. And I was firstborn, so I looked at his model of being a man. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that closed off. I don't want to be that aloof, that repressed. I wanted to have more love in my life, more joy in my life. So I tend to be more kinship to my mother, who was the softer one of the family, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered in hindsight after this breakup is that I'd been spending all my relationship experience being the nice guy, because I was open-hearted, but I wasn't, because the machoism energy, which especially when it was big in the 80s and 90s, was very selfish. It was kind of like big balls, big ego, my way the highway. I'm gonna run the show, and you got to follow along, sort of thing. And I couldn't be that. It wasn't natural for me. I tried putting on a couple of times, and it just didn't work. The only other choice I knew at that time, what was the opposite, was to be the nice guy. So it was like bad boy, nice guy, with the two options. So I played the nice guy. So I had a lot of women who loved me as a friend, of course. But when I was in a relationship, that relationship and a couple before that, they were attracted to me because I was in leadership roles in volunteer place. I volunteered, and so they were attracted to me. But I didn't maintain that leadership role in the relationship.
Oh, okay.
When I got into a relationship, basically I got lazy. I got complacent because I became the nice guy. Whatever they wanted. I mean, the sex was great. That was wonderful. However, I didn't need the relationship.
Okay. That makes total sense to me.
Because the thing is, again, I saw the choice of being nice or being bad boy, and I couldn't do that leadership that was so disrespectful to my partner.
And there's a balance, right? There's a balance we have to find between being nice and knowing when to take control and knowing when not to, that balance there. I guess with everything in life, it's balance.
Well, the thing for me was that I didn't know there was a third option. See, the thing is that breakup, she had basically, and it's funny because she was going through divorce when we met, and her ex-husband and I were very similar. Surprise, surprise, because that's the sort of men she attracted. So when she called me on the carpet, so to speak, when she told me like it was done, it's like, it was over. She basically lamented how I wasn't like the image she thought I was, which was basically like her grandfather, who was this macho cowboy type guy who was back in the South, many years ago. And she'd always wanted a man like that in her life, but none of the men she dated or I were like that. So I knew something was off for me.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, I've not seen her since that time. And if I ever see her again, I thank her because it was because of her that everything changed. So what happened was after that breakup, the end of 2006, I was basically, I joke around, I have a fairly chummy relationship with Spirit.
Yeah.
It's like I have conversations that way. It's how my book started, frankly. It's how the book happened.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I said, God, give me a clue, a sign. I'm missing something. What am I missing? And I kept asking it. Over a couple of months later, I met this woman who I'd never met before. And this is 2007. And my ease and comfort talking to good-looking women was not very high at this point. Mm-hmm. Even though I'd done all this work, I still was bashful and shy around good, beautiful women. I just fell flat on my face, so to speak. And this woman walked out of this building, and she was, as far as I could tell, she was glowing. She was radiant. I mean, she was in a white dress, beautiful tan, but it's almost like neon signs over her head saying, talk to this woman. That was the way I envisioned it. And I figured God was saying, this is your answer. Talk to her. And so I went up and said something silly like, I don't know where you've been, but you're glowing. Who are you, sort of thing. And she burst out laughing. We had a great conversation, but that led me to some teachers who I have been passionate friends of since 2007, who basically taught me what was basically, the way I put it, simply put, was masculine, feminine polarity.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know what it was before. But when I understood what a masculine man was and is, and that's who I've become, it's the best qualities of both the bad boy and the nice guy, but with much more authority. Mm-hmm. The way I describe a masculine man is it's like open heart and strong spine. So I have clarity about who I am, why I'm here, what I'm up to, but also a great deal of compassion for those around me.
Yes,
but it's not the nice guy. So it's not like it's not being a doormat. I have compassion, but also I have boundaries.
I like it. And talk a little bit more about, because I enjoy this too. So every single man and woman have feminine and masculine, right? So yes. Explain that a little bit, because here's the other thing I thought. When you were growing up with a father who was closed off and like, I'm the provider of the family, I do this, but like emotionally distant that he was, mm-hmm. You knew you didn't want to be that because it didn't feel right to you, for one. And then you went a whole lot the other way. So during all this time, Barry, you were just finding yourself, and what it's almost like you went back to embracing and self-discovery who you always have been. Mm-hmm. But I want you to explain about masculine and feminine that we all have. And sometimes I'm in my masculine a lot, like I got to do that. So explain that a little bit.
All right. So I'll put something on the table first, then I want to detour and come back to it. Okay. Yes, we all have masculine and feminine energy within us. It's like a spectrum, like going from dark to light. It's like masculine and feminine has this range. And so we spend time on the spectrum and it moves back and forward. We don't live in one place all the time. The thing is, though, when we're born, we come in naturally as one or the other, generally more one or the other, whichever it is. And it's independent of gender. So most men will come in as a masculine mm-hmm. embodiment. But the thing is, they might, some men do come in a feminine embodiment. There's also not by sexual orientation. There are feminine men who are straight. There are feminine masculine women who are straight and also gay as well. The key is in relationships is the difference in polarity from masculine and feminine creates the attraction. Again, independent of gender. So a gay couple has to have masculine and feminine energy, same as a straight couple does.
Yes.
So just put that on the table. So when we're born, we have an authentic type that we are. But things happen in life. So, for example, if a girl is born in very feminine, but she goes out with brothers, she might put on a masculine shell around it to protect herself so she can be a tomboy, so she fits in with the boys, she can compete with them. And then when she gets into her teen years, she might discover that she's starting to find boys, so she puts on a feminine shell around it because she doesn't take it. Does she keeps building layers that becomes the flirtatious and start wearing frilly dresses and things like that. But then in college, because she wants to be safe, she puts on more of a masculine persona. And so they become on layer upon layer upon layer. And all of us do this, that we have these shells around ourselves that are basically protecting us, but also hiding our true nature.
And if I want to say something to everyone listening, as he was talking about this, Barry was talking about this, I can think about times where I'm in my more feminine versus masculine energies. So you're right. Depending on where you are in a space and time of your life or situational, those energies come to the forefront. That's so true. So I think anybody listening can think, oh yeah, I do. I can definitely, I understand. You may not have understood what it actually was, but that's
Right.
the masculine, feminine energies. Yeah.
Well, 2020 hindsight.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So the thing was, in the journey of this work that I've been doing, I studied with quite a few teachers since then, with Warrior Sage out of Vancouver, with David Data, Alison Armstrong, John Gray, all these different teachers, to talk about the polarity of male and female and masculine and feminine. When I discovered what masculinity was for me, and it was a game changer in the first time I experienced this, it was rediscovering that I could stand in my authority as a man without any fear, without any regret, without any judgment, because I had an open heart at the same time. Because I was raised the idea that men were so closed off and so aloof that they were almost punishing to other people, which is why I hated doing that. So when I discovered I could be in my manhood in a way that was healthy, aligned, and authentic, it was a game changer. And the thing was, when we did the first time I did this retreat with these great group of people, we would spend time in separate rooms, men in one room, women in the other, doing masculine, feminine practices, just to tune ourselves up, so to speak, to really connect to our deeper, authentic nature. And we come back in the room, we do more lecture, practice, dialogue, and everything else. The last break, we came back in the room, and we were standing. This, big was in one of these hotel ballrooms. There were probably about 100 of us all together, 50 men, 50 women. And what happened was, at the end, instead of sitting on the chairs facing the front, we were standing facing each other. So it was a line of men and women facing each other across the room. I remember standing there. It's one of the memories that never goes away. Is I was standing next to my brothers, like 50 of us, like grounded, rooted into the earth. Like we were so clear about who we were, what we were about, why we were here. And when we were standing in front of this wall of women in the femininity, like charged up, overflowing with sexuality and love and joy, that was so attractive. And it wasn't about sexually attractive to us. It was about being so beautifully in the energy who they were. Nice. And so I had a simultaneous experience. I was standing there on my feet, grounded next to my brothers, shoulder to shoulder. At the same time, I was on my knees in worship of the feminine.
Nice.
It was in that moment that I declared, and I've said it ever since, that I'm dedicated to the feminine energy on the planet, because that was what I knew my life was about. And so my coaching work initially was about women, but now it's working with men as well, because part of my work is helping men remember they can also have the same thing. It's like, how do you have an open heart without giving up your balls? Oh
my God, that caught me off guard. I love it though. Oh my gosh. Okay, so just for an encore. Oh wait, Crystal Pickett's. I think it's supposed to be Puckett. Like she knows how to spell her name, but wait, Crystal said what? Hello, Barry and Debbie. I want to say that first. I am a new subscriber and new to your channel. Well, hello, Crystal Pickett. Thank you for being here. Barry and I appreciate you. Teodora, I declare my love to you guys. Oh, Teodora, we love you too. Susan, there's a way to put it. I know what that's in reference to. Say it again. That's so funny to me. How do you do this
now? Well, because the thing is that for most men, they're afraid to open their hearts up because they're going to lose their manhood somehow. So I say it's like, there's a way you can open your heart without giving up your balls.
And his accent makes it sound so much more elegant than if I said it. So that's why I wasn't going to repeat it. You could say it. That's awesome. That's so true. And I'm so glad that you also work with male clients now. And I know that you've said some really beautiful things about women and femininity and I've known you for a couple of years now. Lynn, throw a picture up. We actually saw you in LA. You live in LA.
Yeah.
There we were. We were at a little coffee shop, and where were we? That wasn't in
Santa
LA.
Monica. Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, yeah. We met in a little coffee shop in Santa Monica. That was so fun getting to see you in person and meeting you. You're just a delightful person. And you've
Thank
said
you.
so many great things about women. And even though in your life you've been hurt,
Mhm.
by women, but it's not that, right? You've learned through it and you've grown through it.
The biggest gift I keep giving myself is that I have the choice and I have the control to change my own life. So whatever a woman did to me, or whatever a man did, I mean, I was bullied in high school. I mean, those bullies could have run my life forever if I didn't let go of that when I left. So there's always the choice we have to take care of ourselves, put ourselves first in our own lives, because what somebody else does to us ultimately isn't about us and isn't about them anymore. It's about us unless if we don't do something about it.
So I want to recap this, and then I'm going to ask you the last question that you've been asked 3 other times because you've been on the show. So, but to recap, Barry, you're telling us to when you are the love doctor, you work with couples, you work with singles, you talk to people and help people heal through trauma and, just egos and all of the things. But you also say that to love yourself first and to give self-care to yourself and really love who you are and be in a relationship with yourself
Mhm.
then allows you to be a whole person who can then have a relationship with a whole person to make a really beautiful relationship. And you
Yeah.
said some of the things that you can do is be aware when you're not loving yourself, and then stop yourself out of the negativity. And some other things were exercise, manageably exercise, meditate in the morning to get your day started out great. Little things like that that you've said that isn't like you have to go get a membership at a gym. You have to lift 100 pounds every day. You got to do 100 push-ups. No, just I love the manageability and the structure that doesn't have to be rigid that you've shared with us tonight.
Well,
Is
the
there
thing is,
anything else you can add to that before your
well,
last question?
just to recap that piece of what the thing I'm saying about that is it's about building trust in yourself by keeping your word. So if you
Yes.
do things that are simple things that you can consistently do every day, it doesn't have to be much. Again, it could be journaling, it could be meditating, it could be exercising, whatever it is you have control over, then you will start trusting yourself more, which means your boundaries get stronger, means your relationship with yourself gets better, means your word has more impact in the world. It changes your life. But it's so simple, but people don't do it.
And it is simple. And why don't we do? I mean, I can say I stay structured and do things that I try not to lie to myself. Like if I say I'm going to
Mhm.
do something, do it. At least if you say it out loud, do it. The exercise every day, the meditation, all of the things that you mentioned, that's part of my recipe for my day to help my day. And you're right. If it's a day where I hit the snooze and I don't work out and I'm like constantly feeling like the whole day I'm behind, that I have a crappy day. Well, yeah, because I didn't give myself that self-care and the self-love that I needed to start out my day. So wake up 5 minutes earlier, don't hit snooze, do some deep breathing, sit outside, start your day in control of your day, right?
Yep.
I love
Easy.
that. So before we go, I ask everybody, and I've asked you so many times about the show is called Find It. So what have you found in life that you can share with us to help us find it too? And let's go in the theme of self-love. In your life and your journey of self-love, what have you found to top it off tonight that you can share with us?
Well, the way I've said this, and this actually happened, I got this download New Year's Eve that I want to talk about self love this year. So this is perfect. We're talking about it anyway
Oh, wow. Okay.
and all the time. The truth is that the relationship we have with ourselves is the longest one we'll ever have, simply put. So why don't we invest time in it?
Wow.
Why not value the time we spend with ourselves? Because the thing is, I know for many years I was always thinking that when I get that relationship, I'll feel good. When I get that job, I feel good. When I'll have this, I feel good. It's like, why don't I feel good on my own anyway? And so navigating through life where you put yourself first in yourself is how I've navigated life in a much healthier way. And again, all the work I've done, it was really the practice of it, living it and owning it for myself that helped me to become owning my own authority, being true to myself and have my own values so that I know that my word has impact. I know that my word has value. I know that anybody I'm around, I will respect and care about as best I can.
I love that, Barry. I love that. What have you found? You found self-love for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This book is so good. Do it. Buy one for yourself, buy one for people you love. You can find it on Amazon. This is 50 Ways to Love Your Lover.
Right. That,
With
by the way, that quiz at the bottom, I want to mention that thing that's been put up a few times on there. The quiz that I have on my website, which basically is for those of you who are single, it's called a relationship readiness assessment. Basically, if you're single and you're not sure if you're ready for a relationship, or you think you are ready for a relationship, take the quiz first. It'll give you some things to think about, and it will also give you some scores afterwards too, so you'll know where you are and what's working for you. So check out the quiz.
wow. So the quiz, if you take it, it can help. It can give you some self-awareness of if you're even ready or not.
Yeah, and it covers 4 different areas. I remember I use some Wizard of Oz archetypes in it. So it's kind of fun stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
But basically, you ask the questions. You take you like 10 minutes, and you'll get some good
Oh,
feedback.
good. So it's like a 10 minutes or less. You get this, and you get it. Oh, I love that. So all you need to do is find that on his website. And just a little reminder that this episode is brought to you by Studio 11 Style. Get the free app. See me on Monday nights. I would love to have you there. It's a lot of fun. And so with that, Barry, I appreciate you, and I have such respect for you. I want you to know that. I hope you feel it from me. And I'm so grateful that you have come on the show again to grace the screen and give all this wonderful information. It's been a great and very enlightening show. So I appreciate you. And with that, we are going to go, y'all. And I hope to see you next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. And take care, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That floats around me, keeping me